With the release of SAP S/4HANA Cloud 2208 in the area of basic transportation management, supply chain, there is a new feature that has been released that is going to help you in your planning of your freight units. This new feature is going to allow you to group requirements together on the basis of a requirement grouping profile, and this profile itself is a repository of characteristics, if you like, that define how your requirements should be grouped together. So before we delve into the details of how you set them up, let's quickly go into the system and see how they would work. So in this example, we're going to go into the transportation cockpit. I have limited the number of documents that will be visible so that I do not interfere with the work of my colleagues. But as you can see here, I have just indicated that I wanted to go onto the planning of the sales orders that are between these two numbers. So that's going to be 7 sales orders together. So let's go into the transportation cockpit. And if I maximize this particular pane here, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 freight units. Let me open up this field a little bit and let's look at the unloading location, which is the one that is of importance. Let me also quickly sort this out so it's more blatant. So we can see that we have 1 freight unit going to 1 location. We then have 3 freight units going to the same location but different from the first one, and then at the bottom we can see that we have another 3 freight units going yet again to a different location that is different to the other 2 locations that we have seen before. So to highlight the difference between planning with a grouping profile or not, let me first plan without. So I'm going to select all of my freight units and let's see what's the total weight. So it's going to be 6.3 cubic meters. So we'll pick this resource, which has a maximum capacity of 6.9 cubic meters. And from a weight point of view, we're doing really well as well. So I've just selected my freight units, I've selected my resource, and I'm going to plan without grouping groups. So I'm just going to say assign selected items, and what should happen is that we are going to get 1 freight order that is, here we go, we can see we've got 1 freight order, and if we look at the itinerary of that freight order, we can see that at the main shipping point we are going to be loading all of our freight units onto the truck. And then we will go to the first location, drop 1 freight unit, then go on to the next location, drop 3 freight units, and then the last one where we are going to drop the 3 additional freight units. Now this transport might make absolute sense. This is actually not too bad. We're filling the capacity up to 91%, so it's not too bad. So let me refresh and go back to the original situation so that we can see the difference with planning with groups. So as I said, the intent of planning with groups is that you are going to create capacity documents, i.e. freight orders, based on those grouping criteria that you have predefined outside of the cockpit. So to see how they work and see what the result would be when we do plan with groups, once again, let me select all of my freight units. Now this time, I'm not going to say assign selected items. I'm just going to say create capacity documents based on groups. So I'm going to create road freight orders. And what we should see happening this time is to have, as we see here, 3 freight orders. And we see that we have 1 freight order. So let's look at the itinerary of that one just to make sure that there aren't multiple locations. And we can see that this freight order is going from my shipping point to 1 location. The other freight order is going to go from my shipping point to the other location, and then the last freight order, same thing, is going to go from my shipping point to this location. So the takeaway here is that the system has created not 1 but 3 freight orders because it applied those grouping criteria to the planning, to the creation of those capacity documents. And in this particular case, the grouping profile that I had selected that was picked up here is one that says that the grouping should be done based on the source and destination location, which is what it has done here. It has clubbed together requirements, and what distinguishes them one from the other is that they have the same couple of source and destination. So how do we define the grouping profile and where do we use it? Well, The first thing that we want to do is to look at the planning profile, and it's in the planning profile that you are going to be referencing the requirement grouping profile that is available to you in the transportation planning cockpit. So here it's defined by document type, and we can see that we have different grouping profiles that can be applied to different document types. Then we have the grouping profile, obviously, which is really the crux of this piece of master data. So if we go to the grouping profile, which is a separate application that is available in the Fiori Launchpad, not as an SAC UI. As you can see here, this is the grouping profile that we were using in our planning profile, and the grouping rules are based on source location of stage and destination location of stage. Now, also for the sake of completeness, if you were interested to find out what the other fields that were available to you in this grouping as a grouping rule, let me quickly show you. And as you can see here, you have a number of fields that you could select from to apply during your grouping in the transportation cockpit. So there we go. A great new feature that is going to hopefully help you better plan in basic transportation management in S/4HANA Cloud. And typically, for example, you might want to apply those grouping profiles if you have routes where you would want to clap together a certain number of requirements, because you know that it makes sense to group them together because you're going to be able to reach a better capacity utilization of the resources that your carriers are going to be making available to you. There you go.